and welcome to part 2 of my series of reviews based on the Transformers Fall of Cybertron Combaticons and Bruticus. Next up, we're going to do Fall of Cybertron Vortex, and like I said, we're going to be moving from my least favorite figure to my most favorite figure, and since this is the second in the series, Vortex is my second least favorite, and it's a real shame because this guy, I think, had the potential to be one of the stronger figures in the set, if not the very best, if they had just done a couple of things differently, all in robot mode. I don't really mind the vehicle mode that much, but I do think that this guy had a lot of potential going for him, and he just falls pretty flat. Not totally flat. I do like him much better than Onslaught because he does have a much better vehicle mode, but he does still fall pretty flat, which is a bit of a shame, but oh. Anyway, as you can see, he's a Cybertronian helicopter. He's fairly cool looking, at least in terms of vehicle mode. I do agree that it looks like an insect. Many people have said that it does look kind of like an insect, and I agree with that. I do think it's nice. My biggest complaint with it, and this is pretty much my biggest complaint with the figure overall, this doesn't really specifically pertain to vehicle mode, is the color scheme. And I know that that's kind of hypocritical because I did say that I didn't really mind the Hasbro color schemes on these guys. Well, I forgot to mention that I really do not like the color scheme on Vortex. And it's really not that it's a really horrible color scheme. I mean, on another figure it might have worked, but I just don't understand why they chose this color for this guy. I mean, yeah, many people have said that the original G1 figure was pretty bland. It was just gray and black. And I didn't really care that much for what they did with the in-game Vortex. He was kind of this brownish yellow color that had red bits all over it, but I don't know what they were thinking with going with this really ugly shade of red and purple. The camera's actually picking it out to be a little bit better than it looks on looks in real life. In real life, it just looks absolutely horrible. It actually looks like this very light red plastic that looks really cheap with this really ugly purple color. It looks terrible. I absolutely hate the color scheme on this guy. Anyway, like I was saying, the vehicle mode itself isn't that bad. There's not a whole lot of features to discuss. It does have rotating propeller blades, which is cool. You can also, if you want a double-bladed helicopter instead of a four-bladed helicopter, you can collapse them up to have a double blade if you want. I usually like to display them with the four blades just because I think it looks cooler, but it's up to you. He does come with these two weapons, which actually are guns. It's hard to tell, but they actually do have sculpted barrels, which is kind of nice. So they have kind of this bayonet type of effect, which I think is neat. And I do like the detailing that they put into these guns. You can kind of see they do have some really nice detailing on them. And I like the bright yellow paint on them. I think that gives it a really nice energon charged sword kind of vibe, which I think is nice. I like these weapons. I think they're pretty cool. I do really wish that they had molded this gun a little bit differently. It's always going to sit at this angle. There's nothing you can do with it. You can't raise it up and down just due to how it transforms. You can, if you really work with it, flip it into the cockpit and get it to close up all the way. I found that it's more trouble than it's worth, so I usually just flip the gun out, but if you really work with it, you can get it to store inside the helicopter, but again, it's a lot of trouble to do it, so I usually just leave it out. So yeah, that's about it for vehicle mode. To go to limb mode, what you want to do is you want to take the cockpit, you want to bend it down, and then you want to split it, flip the gun back in, flip the hand out, and then you want to close it back up again. Then what you want to do is you want to go under here, you want to grab onto this whole underside, you want to pull on it until it extends this red piece. This will form the mid part of his arm. And there's two slots carved into here, and then there's two tabs on what will become his robot mode arms. You want to tab those together, and that'll lock the mid part of his arm in place. Then you want to spin the arm around at this waist joint, or elbow joint, I suppose. This ends up becoming his waist joint in robot mode, but for the limb mode, it is his arm mode, and it is his arm rotation joint. And then you want to flip down this black connector piece. You can also, if you want, flip down this piece for whatever reason, if you want to do that. I personally don't like the look of it, so I usually just leave it flipped up. And also, you can, if you want to, close up the propeller blades. There is no way that I found to get these pieces to collapse inward, which is a bit of a shame. I think it would have looked better if they had found a way to get him to collapse inward, but no, what are you going to do? And there you have his arm mode. And it's pretty cool. I do like the look of it. I should have mentioned in my last video, so I'm going to mention it now. I'm not going to be going over any of the Scramble City elements of this combiner. You can make this guy a leg. You can make the rest of the figures arms that are supposed to be legs, and vice versa. Obviously, you can't do anything with Onslaught since he forms the torso, but I'm not going to be going over any of the Scramble City elements of this figure just because I don't really care for them, but you can find other videos if you want to. You can also, I should mention, the thumb does have a joint, so if you don't like the look of the thumb off to the side, you can flip it up all the way. But as many people have pointed out, he does have kind of a karate chop hand. It's not as bad looking in person as pictures make it out to believe, and the hands actually do have a very slight curve at the fingers, but it's really not all that noticeable, so it does in effect become karate chop hand, which, like I said, it's not as bad in person as it looks in pictures, but it is still pretty bad. You can also, if you want, flip this thumb around. Like I said, if you want to do the Scramble City, you can give this guy, make this guy the right arm of Bruticus instead of the left. But I like to do the official transformation that's always been with Vortex being the left arm, Bruticus being the right arm, and so on. So yeah, pretty cool. Nice, decent arm mode. I do like it. And then to get to robot mode, you go ahead and straighten everything back up. Go ahead and split this piece again, and flip back the hand back in. Then flip all this down. These will form his legs. Go ahead and rotate these pieces back. Like I said, they have the hinge to hide them in limb mode, but unfortunately, just due to all the junk that ends up behind his arm in limb mode, they can't be flipped back. But they can in robot mode, which I find kind of strange. Anyway, then you want to take these pieces. And you want to rotate this purple piece off to the side until it tabs in. And then you want to go ahead and bend this whole section down, and then split this whole assembly. These will form his arms. And then with his chest, it's kind of neat how they did it. What you want to do is you want to take this piece up here, and you want to rotate it all the way back. And then you want to start slowly collapsing the chest down on one peg, and then continue bringing it down until this black piece ends up in the center of his chest. Which I thought was a neat way to get the chest down. Let's see. Oh yeah, you want to go ahead and flip up the black combiner port. Forgot to do that. I'll go ahead and bring that all the way back down. I'll flip down this piece. Then flip down his head. Then you want to take these pieces right here, rotate them up and tab them in. Rotate his arms all the way around and straighten them out. The same on this side. Flip that up, tab it in, rotate these pieces around. And then with his weapons, you can do a couple of things. You can't have him hold them as pistols, since, like I said, they are technically guns. But I personally don't really care for the look of that, but you can do it. You can also have him hold them as knives in both hands. What I like to do, since he has this double blade over here, what I like to do is I like to take them and put them together as this Darth Maul type double-bladed sword thing, which I think looks really cool. There you have Vortex in robot mode. And like I said, looking at him, he looks cool. In practice, there's a couple of things that they did that I just don't understand. The biggest gripe I have with this guy is the way that they did his head. And that's not complaining about the head sculpt. I think it's a pretty nice head sculpt. But these black pieces right here totally hinder whatever movement you could get out of it. And it's a fairly free ball joint if it didn't have these black pieces on the side, which totally hinder his looking left to right abilities. I don't know why they put those black pieces there. I'm thinking of hacking them off, but I'm afraid that I might damage the constructional stability of the toy in vehicle mode and limb mode, so I'm kind of hesitant to cut them off, but I might do that. I might not. If you have any advice, post it in the comments down below. The second complaint that I have, and I'm not going to be able to fix this, unfortunately, is the way that they did his arms, specifically at the elbows. You can see that he has his elbow right here, but then there's a bent that bends up like a crescent moon into his actual arm piece, and I don't know why they did that. It looks really, really strange. On this side, it hinders the articulation, but that's more just because it has this this blade assembly over here. It doesn't really do it over here, but it just makes his arm look really awkward, and I don't know why they did that. I realize some of it might have had to do with transformation, but I don't understand why they had to cut it at such an extreme angle. It it looks really weird. Also with this skirt piece, I don't know why they didn't just cut it down the middle and have two skirt pieces, because when you go to move his legs forward, you can see that it does bend. It does have a hinge here, but the hinge is so tight that you really can't do anything other than flip it all the way up. And that gives you the ability to move the hips a little bit more, but it also just looks like he has a giant piece of metal sticking out of his waist, which I think is really, really strange. So I don't know why they did that. I think it just looks really weird. But overall, posability on this guy is pretty decent. Like I said, his head is pretty much useless because of those black pieces, but it is on a ball joint, so it can look up and down fairly freely. You can, if you want to get into some really extreme action poses mounted on those black pieces, so if you want to have like a really extreme action pose, but I usually don't do that just because I think it looks stupid, but you do have the ability to do that. He does have ball jointed shoulders, which is nice. He does rotate at the elbow. He has those weird elbow joints so he can bend at the elbow. They are ratcheted elbows, but they do seem to be made of a stronger plastic than on Onslaught, so I'm not as worried about them wearing out as I am on Onslaught. He does have ball jointed hips. They go side to side, but like I said, unless you flip this skirt piece all the way up, they can't move back and forth any. They can move backwards, but they can't move forwards, which is a bit of a shame. He does have an upper thigh swivel, which is nice. He also does have a joint at the knee. It's a ratchet, and it's made of fairly strong plastic. He does also have a joint down here that you can use if you really want to. It's mostly for transformation, but you can use it. He also does have a limited waist joint, which is nice. So for a standard size comparison, like I said in my Onslaught video, I'm going to save the comparisons with the other team members when I get to the video reviewing the final figure, which is my favorite figure, and then I'll review Bruticus. But anyway, for a standard size comparison, here he is next to Bumblebee. You can see he is a little bit smaller than the average Deluxe, but that's okay because Vortex always was supposed to be one of the smaller Combaticons anyway, so I'm perfectly okay with it. So yeah, overall, like I said, this guy had a lot going for him. If they had done away with the garish color schemes, those weird black pieces on the side of his head, redone the elbow joints, and cut this skirt down the middle, I think he would have been an awesome, awesome figure. But as it stands, he is kind of a letdown, which is a real shame. Like I said, he's not my least favorite of the set. Definitely not by a long shot, but he's definitely down there in the mediocre end of the set, so that is a bit of a shame. Like I said, you're probably going to end up picking up all the Combaticons because you want to form Bruticus, but if for whatever reason you are collecting the individual robot modes, I think that he's going to be down on, he should be down on your list of figures to get, because I do think he is one of the weaker of the set, which, like I said, is a real shame because he had a lot going for him. But anyway, yeah. So there you go, my look at Transformers Fall of Cybertron Combaticon Vortex. Thanks for watching, please subscribe, and stay tuned for part 3 of my Combaticon video reviews.